Gary G-Spot confirming his departure from the SEC. Moon Boys worldwide are victorious once again. And now, with Gary Gensler out of the way, just how high can this thing go? Only one thing is guaranteed. You're not bullish enough. So if you understand the gains are coming bigger, harder, and stronger than anyone could ever imagine, hit that like, subscribe, get sent up to Femex below from my Bitcoin altcoins, or trade. And without any further ado, let's absolutely jump into Bitcoin today, which should come as no surprise to anybody following along over the past few weeks, but Bitcoin has yet again just hit another new all-time high. With Bitcoin, by the time you're watching this, potentially we've already surpassed $100,000 per Bitcoin. One thing is for sure, it's inevitable. The big question people are asking themselves is, are we going to get a pullback at 100K, or are we going to accelerate? Are we going to start pumping unbelievably fast past 100K? Well, let's dive into a few things. Good riddance to potentially one of my least favorite people. Gary Gensler officially is stepping down as of January 20th. What a mess. This guy was the worst. I have nothing good to say about him, so I'm going to move on pretty quickly. But yeah, what a bad guy. We take a look here as well. I think it's very obvious to people that are in the space, in crypto, what is happening and how big, specifically the dynamic in the, I don't want to say exploitation, but the strategy that MicroStrategy, their former CEO, Michael Saylor, has been using. But the question asked by Bitcoin for Freedom on X here is, how long will it take for other countries and companies to realize that MicroStrategy is printing money to buy a finite asset? The thing is that, and this is really what is going to accelerate and kind of going to be a holy crap moment, in my opinion, for so many billionaires and so many CEOs and so many people in general, is that once they actually understand what is happening with crypto right now, specifically how Michael Saylor is strategically and, in my opinion, very intelligently using the current system to accumulate as much Bitcoin as he possibly can, I think every company on the world, once they understand that, they're going to try to be doing the same thing. And they do not have the first mover advantage at this point. Michael Saylor is the only one that has that advantage. And every day that goes by that he has that advantage, every day that goes by that these companies don't figure out exactly what's happening, they are going to be paying for that exponentially, quite literally every day that they can't figure it out. And basically what they need to start doing is buying Bitcoin. Back in 2022, we see this post on Fortune saying a year after El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as legal tender, it could default on its sovereign debt, basically saying they failed. Now, fast forward 2 years, two small countries bet big on Bitcoin, and it's paying off big time. It's insane. They've done amazingly. He's completely changed his country. Probably one of the, will go down in history as something, insane. But all they had to do was adopt Bitcoin. We see here as well, Bitcoin just made an all-time high against gold. The flipping is programmed and will be one of the most seminal moments in the history of financial markets, according to Will Clemente. I do want to talk about gold a little bit, but I also want to highlight that the same people that come back every cycle and say that Bitcoin's in a bubble when it's pumping are the same people that say that it's dead during a bear market. These people will never learn, and they don't deserve, at this point, they don't deserve, the saying, you buy Bitcoin at the price you deserve. These people deserve to be buying it at, $2 million per coin, $10 million per coin, whatever it is. If they refuse to learn, if they refuse to do the smallest amount of research, then they shouldn't benefit from this technology, and that's okay. Having a brain isn't for everyone, and some people, unfortunately, it takes them so long to learn things to the point where, is it going to be too late by the time some of these people catch on? Yeah, it will be too late, and that's okay. But we see Bitcoin ETFs now have over $100 billion in assets. Completely insane. They are catching up to gold ETFs for total assets held, whereas Bitcoin has, there are about $104 billion in assets in Bitcoin and about $121 billion for gold. Bitcoin, keep in mind, has done this in only 11 months. What do you think is going to be the amount of Bitcoin held in just one more month? Very likely much higher than gold's. We see that, speaking of these 100 milestones, the US Bitcoin ETFs have hit 100 billion in assets, although, as Eric Balkunas points out, it's more like 104 billion given the surge overnight, with year-to-date flows flirting with 30 billion, which is double their initial estimate. and now 97% of the way to passing Satoshi as the biggest holder, and 82% of the way to passing these gold ETFs. Guys, I mean, it's not even a competition. It's not even close. Like, it's not even, it's crazy. Like, Bitcoin's basically doing all this the first year that they start trading. I mean, look further down the line. It's not even going to be a competition. We also see that Wall Street Bet's continuing because they don't understand exactly this whole play that MicroStrategy is doing to issue more debt to buy more Bitcoin, and basically this reflexive feedback loop that will generate them infinity and beyond income or Bitcoin. All these people shorting Bitcoin because they look at this stock and it's going up, and they look at it as do you think the people on Wall Street Bets looking at this have literally any capacity to understand exactly like what Michael Saylor's playbook is? I don't think so. I don't think these people have had a decade to learn about Bitcoin and they still don't understand it. Do you think they're going to figure out what Michael Saylor is doing in a couple days because they looked at a chart that's high? No, 100% chance they're shorting this because it looks like it's high, because it is high, and maybe it'll go down in the couple days or something. But overall, if you understand what's happening here, this thing is going up, much more up. So it's a very short-term bet to bet against Bitcoin or to bet against MicroStrategy right now that could pay off over a couple days or weeks. But if you plan on just my opinion, I think it's extremely risky. We also see that basically long post by Dylan DeClaire, but to summarize it, traditional finance is massively underweight Bitcoin exposure where it matters. And where it matters is the bond and credit markets. And this will change as Bitcoin reprices closer to gold as a global monetary asset. The bond market is now open to Bitcoin for the first time ever. The walls of Troy have been breached. And the chart that he shows here is the Bitcoin perpetual futures annualized funding rate with 1 week on a 1 week timescale. Completely bananas. We see Bitcoin miner Marathon raising $1 billion to buy more Bitcoin, using the same playbook in action as Michael Saylor. The talking heads on CNBC still have no concept of what Michael Saylor is doing, even though he goes on CNBC multiple times a month, basically. And they still just don't get it. I mean, as I just said, they still don't understand Bitcoin. Most of these people that are talking on on CNBC and on Bloomberg, most people still cannot wrap their head around it, which, again, it doesn't take that much. Like, legitimately, if you spend 10 minutes doing research, for most people, like, a light bulb goes off and it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense. These people still have not had that moment yet, which blows my mind. Maybe they're refusing to have that moment and they just refuse to see what's happening, which a lot of people do in general. Maybe that's the case. But we see as well U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis outlining a strategic Bitcoin reserve plan for Bitcoin to purchase about 200,000 Bitcoin per year for 5 years for a total of 1 million Bitcoin as their strategic reserve. This will pump the price. I mean, this is the simplest way to say this. If this ends up happening, it will explode the price. And this is her talking on CNBC today about the U.S. government selling its gold to buy Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. Maybe not the worst strategy. Taking a look today, as I mentioned, though, MicroStrategy is down a little bit. The entire cryptocurrency market is still, at all-time highs, trending up. Look at the volume increase as well here on the entire crypto. This is the entire cryptocurrency chart. Keep in mind, at some point, maybe we will get a flash crash down to the $78,000, $80,000 level where the CME gap is. What else is down at that level? That's exactly right now where the 21-day moving average is. So let's say we did have a flash crash. Hey, again, I think this market is going to become a little less volatile as time goes on, meaning less drastic or quick or sharp dumps. And what have you noticed lately is that we've been getting new all-time highs day in, day out, but look at these candles. Yes, there are some massive candles here, specifically on election day. When Trump won, that was a massive candle. But there was like one or two other really big ones. But the rest of these are kind of just like slow, smaller. I mean, how much is this, for example? This is like a 3, 4, 5% candle, 3% candle. Right today, we were up about almost 5%. So we've been breaking out almost in slow motion. But keep in mind, it's not really slow motion either, but you can just tell that there is just pressure underneath Bitcoin keeping it up. There are moments where it looks like Bitcoin could have a bigger backtest and it could dump, say, for example, back here on November 17th, or even here back on November 13th. There are moments that look like, hey, maybe we'll finally get a cooling off or something. And I still think we will in the future, but all I'm saying is there is so much buying pressure right now that the price is getting pushed up. It's like floating up, and there is going to be selling pressure, but every time we get that massive selling pressure because of the current environment, and we're about to shift into a much more positive, friendly, crypto-friendly regulatory environment, every time one of those moments happens where we might get a big push, keep in mind, we have a lot of things that are trying to lift us up now. In the past, every single bull market we've had in the past, we have never had clarification on crypto. And in fact, the closest thing to clarification we ever had was enforcement by, or regulation by enforcement. So it was like negative. It was always like a negative macro regulatory environment for crypto. For the first time ever, it's the opposite. It's going to be the most pro-crypto Congress ever. And I think people are not taking into full account just how much that has the potential of exploding this market. Still, I don't think any of us truly can wrap our heads around just how big it could be. Weekly chart for Bitcoin, again, 21-day moving average is actually right now at about 66,000 US dollars. This thing really has to start catching up, considering we've just been, the last 3 weeks have been pretty explosive. Let's be honest. In the past 3 weeks, we're up about almost 50%. The MACD and RSI look, myself and so many people were talking about this breakout before it happened for weeks and weeks and months. And now it's literally happening exactly as we said it would. And it's not surprising. It just takes patience, right? It takes patience for these things to happen. And they're just happening exactly as we thought they would. The same with the US election. You can see just lifting off immediately after US election, just like we all said it would. We are in this 300-day window, I think, of where we're going to see massive gains. But you can see we're already starting to move up and start to look like, oh, this is the beginning of an uptrend. Stock market actually having a little bit more of an upside move today as well. And overall, the US dollar is still going up also, which is crazy because Bitcoin is pumping like it doesn't even care. In fact, about to hit 100K. It's kind of insane. By the time you're watching this, we probably, we very likely, there's a lot of short positions at 100K, but whenever those get liquidated, again, we're going to push significantly above and we're just going to keep going up. Absolutely banana mode. And get signed up with Phoenix below if you want to buy Bitcoin or altcoins, or trade and receive up to a $30,000 US dollar deposit bonus for a limited time. And without any further ado, that's it for me.